G'day, I'm Andrew Fenwick, and welcome to A Weed to Know.
Weed to know, cannabis info on a weed to know basis. Weed to know. Interviews and news, cannabis info.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Weed to Know. Today I wanted to delve into the hemp industry. When we talk about the cannabis plant and all its benefits as a THC containing product, off to the side of that is a massive industry potential in non-THC hemp, which of course is the same plant, just without THC as its dominant cannabinoid. So it's concerning that the stigma of cannabis prohibition has such a strong impact on this potential industry. We're talking about moving forward and providing, regional jobs and money to keep people in regional areas. And here's this industry just waiting to happen, and we have our government sitting on their hands for who knows what reason. Are they just not game to come up and make a decision and say, okay, well, we need to deschedule non-THC cannabis and create a normal industry, a normal product, a normal farming product that can be grown on normal farms, and then do the same thing that the governments do for all the other farmers? Create this primary industry support that subsidises farmers, provides grants to new businesses that are going to process and research and develop new cannabis or hemp products. All this is there, sitting in the background. And from where I can see after a few years of being involved in this, the whole cannabis industry, including hemp, medicine, it all comes down to what we call this thing at a federal level. We're calling cannabis a prohibited thing. So every time we move into a new part of it, whether it's providing a TGA exemption so that somebody can use cannabis as a medicine, or whether somebody can farm hemp, is all tied back to these restrictions around the cannabis plant. So hopefully, in coming years or in the next term of government, it'd be really good to see the federal government move with its federal agencies, the Therapeutic Goods Administration for a particular point, and reschedule the different versions of cannabis into where they belong. And obviously, non-THC cannabis shouldn't be on the schedule at all. So that's what I'd be loving to see the next federal government do. It's interesting, though, when you look into the international point of view, the varying responses to hemp. Like, you can see the stigma of cannabis prohibition has stopped hemp industries progressing or even starting in some countries, and other places where, in the States, the Farming Act over there just sort of went, oh, do what you want with hemp, grow as much as you want. You can use the whole plant, you can do everything you want. So now you've got this massive hemp industry growing where there was no industry before. Thousands and thousands of new jobs, new products, all this new development in building and food, and unfortunately, because of the, I suppose, not great legislation that was behind that decision from a federal point of view in America, was you had the development of intoxicating hemp products where they were synthesising THC8 and THC10 and creating these hemp products that would get people high. And that has now become a problem. So you can see there's re-legislation happening, or they're trying to do new restrictions in the States to stop that. But then you go to other countries where hemp industries that were starting to grow are now starting to get affected by new legislation. Italy's trying to ban hemp flower use. There's restrictions in other countries, like Portugal, you think would be great, and they're starting to put restrictions on the hemp industry. And yet, on the other hand, you've got New Zealand are doing a review on their hemp industry to make it grow and to open up the doors and take away some of these legal barriers to a good hemp industry. So it's a very interesting thing. We know that the cannabis, but the hemp industry has thousands and thousands of applications where nobody's game to invest any money in it because there's no end selling point for the product. You can grow the stuff, but there's no one to take it. There's so many restrictions around growing it. There's so much restrictions around moving product around. There's lots of extra costs and regulations on farmers, which they'd probably be okay to do if they knew there was a stable environment to put their products into. And that just doesn't exist in Australia. And we need to fix this. Nobody's going to invest in research and development of hemp products. Nobody's going to invest in decent volume farming. We need to move faster on these issues. Otherwise, it'll just fizzle out. Like you've got some really diehard people out there that really want the hemp industry to grow in Australia. And eventually they're just going to go, well, why? Why bother? So what's the value in it for farmers to put hemp in? In reality, there should be lots of value. The potential to grow 2 crops a year, the multiple uses of the hemp plant. If you're going to go down the food, you've got the seeds and you've got the oil. If you're going to go down into the more industrial things, you've got the fibre and the herd out of the plant. We should have an animal feed industry that's coming off this. So instead of somebody just putting in a crop of alfalfa, they can put in a crop of hemp and get 3 or 4 products off the plant instead of just one animal feed. There's so much potential here. And when we're talking about, I live in the Hunter area, so we've got this issue of changing industries and the need to create new jobs, new well-paid jobs within the area. Hemp, it's a perfect thing for us. Lots of farming land, good river system for irrigation. We're going to have a shrinking coal industry, a shrinking power industry that is normally based here. And here's this opportunity to create this multi-billion-dollar industry in Australia. It's just sitting there, waiting to happen, and nobody's moving on it. So today's episode, we're going to take you and meet Crystal White from the Northern Rivers Hemp Co-op, which is unique in itself. It's the only co-op of its type in New South Wales, and maybe the country. I don't know. I'll have to check into that. But it's a real first-hand experience for you in talking to a hemp farmer in a hemp co-op and some of the barriers to success that they have, that all hemp farmers around the country are experiencing. And it's a big industry. Like the New Zealand hemp industry are pushing for this review over there to change their rules and regulations around hemp farming. They're predicting that even in New Zealand, the hemp industry is worth $2 billion a year and 10, 20,000 new jobs. And this is a country with a very small population that the hemp industry could have that big of an impact. We know that the UK are planning to get 80,000 hectares under hemp by 2035, I think it is, because they want to see the UK benefit from this huge potential with this great new product. So, and I shouldn't call it a new product because it's a really, really old product that due to cannabis prohibition, we've missed out on nearly 100 years of product research and development. I can't imagine some of the things that we would have had made out of hemp by now if it hadn't been for the prohibition of cannabis. So let's move forward. Let's hit the governments up, write to your MPs, get them to view cannabis as a good plant with lots of uses, and for this segment, the hemp. So let's go and talk to somebody who's an expert in this and a growing leader in the industry, Crystal White.
Weed to know, cannabis info on a weed to know basis. Weed to know.
And welcome to Crystal White from Northern Rivers Hemp Co-op. How are you, Crystal?
Thank you very much for having me, Andrew.
Oh, well, if I was going to talk to anyone in the hemp industry, it was going to be you. Apart from our friendship, you've always welcomed me into the Northern Rivers hemp environment, and I think in terms of being what you're doing with your co-op and trying to create a nice community business out of this, I think it's a model that could be used for lots of things other than hemp, but certainly for hemp at the minute.
It's pretty special, yeah. A co-op, it's got lots of really fantastic positives about being part of a co-op, and it's an exciting journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So you haven't always done hemp. So how'd you end up here?
No, so to cut a long story short, moved from the Territory many years ago. I've been here in Northern Rivers now for 19 years, and when I moved from the Northern Territory, my background was working with people, mostly adults with a disability. So I was in the disability sector. I was in there way before NDIS came in. So been working in that actually for 20 years, from the age of 17 to 37. So quite a long time. During the years of COVID, I left the industry for personal reasons. And in that period of time, my husband had put in our application for our hemp license for our farm here in Northern Rivers. And I was a little bit reluctant. It's not something I'd ever sort of done. I don't have a huge farming background. I have a huge nature background, but not so much around farming. And so our application came in the mail, and he walked in and said,
"Look at this.
Guess what arrived?" So
we're farmers.
I had no, I didn't have a lot of other options at that point. And so it just felt like a door had closed and another door had opened. And although I was a little bit reluctant about moving into that field, especially being here in the Northern Rivers, I didn't want family connotations and things that go along with the cannabis industry, and it worried me. And so it's been quite interesting, because it's certainly not somewhere that I've always been in. And so having to navigate that and work my way around it and educate people has been really, really incredible. So I've been in the hemp industry now since 2021. So not a really long time, but
so
I think...
I pretty much met you just after you started then, really.
Yeah.
It's almost first crop. Yeah.
So
was that education process and the impact on your family about the stigma of cannabis as bad as you thought it was going to be?
No, actually feel it was a little bit the opposite. People were like, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's so,
awesome.
That's incredible. Oh, it can do so many different things to, to help the environment and people." And so once I sort of felt that, obviously there is still that, there is still the other side of it too, where people think you're a dirty stoner or whatever. It's so crazy. And, it is definitely getting better, and people are moving away from that and realising that the plant has so much opportunity out there that we can utilise this plant for.
So how does your co-op operate compared to if most people are thinking about doing hemp farming, they think, okay, I need to get myself a big farm and I need to get a big shed to put my decorticator in and all this sort of thing. How is this better? How does this work for the farmers? How does it all tie together?
Yeah. So I guess the thing is, if people generally were going and getting a hemp license, they would get a hemp license for their farm, and then they would have to learn by themselves, if they didn't already know how to do it, how to grow, what cultivars grow best in their region, how to dry, then purchase all of that equipment and do all of that learning from scratch for that one individual farm. And then the issue is, you can be the best grower in the world, but there isn't an end place to sell our hemp to. Yeah. So it kind of is this, you can grow it, but where do you sell it to? It's still a major issue in our country. We don't have businesses out there saying, yes, we'll buy all of your hemp. So the way the co-op works is we have now 8 farms, actually.
Okay.
We've just brought on
2.
another one.
Okay, so right.
Yeah. So we've got 8 farms here in the Northern Rivers, and we work together. So we all farm individually on our land,
yep.
but we call each other and say, hey, I need help. What do I do? I need to put in a cover crop. I need help with keeping the weeds down from around my plants, or I've got a pest happening, like what? And so we can call on each other for our expertise in different areas. And that's just the growing side of things. And then obviously we're creating a brand and a business, which is Northern Rivers Hemp Growers Cooperative, or Northern Rivers Hemp. And we are creating the end point for our product to go to, which is our online business and the store in Nimbin.
Yeah, so
it's working together as a group.
You've actually created your own endpoint for the products, which is, as you said, it's one of the biggest challenges with the industry, not just in New South Wales but Australia-wide. Unfortunately, the stigma of the cannabis prohibition puts a stink on hemp, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's all piled into the same category. We have major issues with things like our social media and our online presence, what we can and can't say online, what we can and can't show online. So we can't have images of a cannabis leaf on any of our products or any of our brochures, because AI will pick that up online, and so then they flag our account as a pharmaceutical drug use, or even though it's not pharmaceutical, absolutely not. It's not. We're not calling it a medicine. We work in the cosmetic field, so it's a hard industry to be in when you're constantly fighting against this ridiculous, outdated stigmas.
So I remember you were having some banking problems too. Has that settled down, like in terms of your payment platforms and things like that?
Oh, it has settled down, and we went through lots of, when we were setting up, and we set up I don't know if I'm allowed to say the names of different businesses that we
keep the name out, but different platforms.
Yes, different platforms, and we would go through all of the things to be able to use that platform for our, say for example, our online website sales. So which platform takes those sales and puts them through to our bank account, basically. And we go through everything. We're a proper company, like we've got directors and everything, so it's all above board. We've got insurances, and it kind of operates for it might operate for like a week, and you think, yep, okay, great, we've got everything running, and then all of a sudden you shut down, completely shut down, and you get an email to say we cannot no longer trade with you because you are dealing in
cannabis,
like drugs and pharmaceuticals. Yeah, exactly. So
it's a weird thing.
It's crazy. We've landed on a platform that we've been with for quite a while now. It still has its issues, and they also did shut us down at one point. It was on a Tuesday. We were in the middle of a big meeting, and I got an email to say, after a year with this platform, you've been shut down because of this. So we went into sort of panic mode, pulled up a backup website that we had, and we contacted them and explained everything and gave them all of our evidence to show what we're doing, and said, this is a legitimate above board business. We're not selling anything that is illegal. So it's been going great since then. So that's good. But yeah, it's definitely a huge problem that we have in the industry.
Yeah. And I know it's even worse in the States with their federal law the way it is. You can't even pay taxes. You can't pay taxes. You can't have tax deductions on your expenses. The banks won't touch you. So what they've created is this huge cash marketplace that nobody can really keep a track of, which you think from a government point of view just doesn't make any sense. That you think they'd want to be tracking and taxing every dollar they can, but it's a weird situation. So where do you see the co-op going from here in terms of, I know Jason was dabbling in different building products and wanting to create another outlet for the products.
Yes, my husband is. Yeah.
And the other thing that I haven't actually checked in on yet was what's happening with the animal feed biomass progress. Do you know what's happening with that?
In regards to the APVMA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel, as far as I know, it's sort of at a halt at the moment. That's Australia-wide, so they pulled hemp seed oil and any hemp products from the pet market. And
But even bedding and stuff like that as well?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Anything that is going on a pet. So, for example, we used to be allowed to sell hemp seed oil for pets for adding to their food, basically, because it is legal within Australia. It would
as a human food.
Yeah, and so that was pulled in, I think, August of 2023, I believe now, and so you technically cannot feed your pet hemp seed oil, and even topical products like balms for paws and skin and things like that have been removed as well.
How ridiculous is that? I mean, it's approved for human consumption, but you can't give it to your pets anymore.
Yeah,
it's usually the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a really big step backwards for the industry. There are a lot of business in the hemp industry in Australia that have built their business off hemp seed oil for pets. So it was a massive step backwards.
But it's also the volume of it. You only have to look at the investment in, even Bunnings has got a pet aisle now. You get your big pet barns and all these sort of massive, they realise how much money people will spend on their pets. So I'd imagine the oil and seed volume that was going into pet food and pet products would have been a significant amount of oil and seed.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. There's still, you can still find it. It's still in a lot of places, but and the crazy part about it is you can still go to your health food store and buy a bottle of hemp seed oil for yourself and feed it to your pet. So it's crazy. Yeah.
So there's obviously, there's so many areas around the cannabis plant that need to be adjusted to make the whole industry work. What from your point of view as a budding hemp industry, where do you want to see what's the top three things that you think need to be changed from a legislation point of view to give you a break to get this thing some momentum?
So I think for us, if we're talking about just hemp as the topic here, we would really like to see other cannabinoids that are not THC be declassified from the register of products that you can't consume, I guess. This would mean that other companies and Northern Rivers Hemp could go into things like edibles and things that you could be consuming, remembering that these are not things that are going to get you high. These are things that are just going to, might make you feel a little bit more calm or help with your skin or whatever the point is of that edible based off what cultivar it's been grown from and what outcome you're looking for when you're creating those products. So that would be incredible. I think exporting from Australia would, if barriers and rules were opened up in Australia and we were able to export easier with our products, that would be amazing. I know that even things like hemp fibre, they have massive difficulty trying to get that out of the country. Wow. So, the Australian Hemp Masonry Company is a prime example of that. Clara's talked about that in depth, that she has major issues trying to get the product out of the country.
So even trying to export to a country that has no problem with the product, say you're exporting hemp fibre from here to Montana, it would be difficult.
As far as I'm aware, definitely. And then, it's crazy. And then the third point would be touching back on what I said a little bit earlier around you can be the best grower in the world, but unless you have a place to sell your product to, then we're not going to have people wanting to become hemp farmers and learning and paying the money to go through all of the rigmarole of getting their licenses and criminal history checks and farm checks and all these things unless we have an end point for people to sell their product to. So I would love to see the government support the hemp industry in a much larger capacity than what they currently are. It's really time to get with the times. There are countries out there who are miles ahead of Australia, and it's actually becoming quite embarrassing where Australia's at with the hemp industry. We don't have enough processing facilities in the country. So if we don't have the processing facilities, then people aren't going to grow.
Yeah, there's no end
and if
product.
You compare it to Exactly. If you compare it to something like the dairy industry, the government has supported the dairy industry. The government has supported the macadamia industry in Australia. Why is the hemp industry any different? Why are we not getting, government support, financial support in to help this industry to push along in the direction that it needs to go?
And it's not just, I mean, we can look at it from a really simplistic point of view of, we want to go out so we can have volume. But it's also the whole research and development part of it. Like, who's going to uncover all the things that we can do with the cannabis plant while we can't actually have the cannabis plant? Like, there's so many restrictions to people going, oh, okay, we're going to spend $1 million to find out how we can make a better plastic out of hemp. If they can't have a supply because suppliers aren't getting supported, and you can just see the circular connection between all these problems.
Yeah.
Back to that,
and a lot of it.
Back to that scheduling issue of how things are scheduled and the state's inability to move forward in each state of the country. So.
Yeah, I mean, another example of that is hemp leaves. So the leaf, like the picture behind you on the screen there, it's just a leaf. It can't get you high. You can't. There's no psychoactive effects from a hemp leaf. Yet we cannot on-sell hemp leaves. So that is a whole nother little industry in itself. Could you imagine if we could start on selling hemp leaves to, your local smoothie shops and things like that, and they could have, hemp leaves have huge benefits in them that are non-psychoactive, but we're not allowed to do that. So currently we have to bury those leaves back into our soil on the farms.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's not bad compost and it's good for the next range of plants. But
beautiful.
I mean, one of the big industries, of course, is animal feed. Like, you got farmers who dedicate, many, many hectares of land to grow alfalfa and sorghum and all these other things to feed animal stocks. And I mean, I'm not a fan of massive animal farms, but here's an industry that already churns up an amazing amount of fodder, and you've got another industry that is looking for bast and fibre components, and they're left with all this leaf biomass. You think that there's from a hemp farmer's point of view, there's another product on the benefits of being a hemp farmer, is being able to on-sell that biomass into the animal feed industry for drought protection, and it seems like a no-brainer. And the last thing I saw of the trial for that, they were testing it on a flock of sheep. And, you can imagine how much THC is actually in a hemp leaf. And they found that if they stopped feeding the animals hemp leaves for a week before they test them, there's no sign of any cannabinoids in their system at all. And yet, imagine how much healthier the sheep would be and the cows would be and the horses and everyone else's animals if they were getting a blend of hemp biomass in their feedstock.
Yeah.
And plus, it's that other part of the crop. You can have 4 or 5 things coming off you per hectare instead of just the one, which is what an alfalfa farmer gets.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly right. I don't think you'd be hard pressed to find a hemp farmer out there who doesn't want that to happen. We all know that we can use the leaf for different things. We can use the bast, we can use the herd of the inside woody part of the stalk, we can use the roots. There's so many. Every part of the plant is usable, every single part, but currently we are not allowed to use every single part of the plant. And we certainly can't on-sell it off our farms or move it off our farms unless it's going to another licensed farm. So, it's very tricky. But another part of the animal and the farming side of hemp that you were just touching on there is say an alfalfa farmer. Hemp is a great rotational crop too, or a great crop to have in between. So things like alfalfa, I'm not sure entirely about alfalfa, but there's certain crops that do drain the nutrients from your soil. But hemp is the opposite. Hemp actually puts nutrients back into your soil and it sucks out toxins. So it's a great crop to put in also for cleaning up contaminated farmland or contaminated mining land, areas like that.
Yeah, and especially if we had a good outlet for the fibre and the herd to be able to go to those places and create everlasting products out of them that trap all that stuff and take it away and turn it into something that becomes inert and is useful, like insulation and hempcrete and I just think there's so much potential just in hempcrete itself, just as a thing, and yet once again,
so much.
There's no.
So I was saying a little bit earlier that you asked sort of like, where's the direction of the co-op? Where's the plan for the co-op? So one of the things is my husband Jason is a licensed builder. And we've got a building team here. So he's actually just going through his hemp building certification now with the Australian Hemp Masonry Company. And he's done his online sessions and he's going to do his prac. So then we'll have within our co-op a licensed builder who also specialises in hemp. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And I think that market of prefab stuff, that once again, like if you could get prefabbed hempcrete panels and blocks and hemp composites, which I know Jason was already working on, some sort of beams, and there's so many things that can be made for the construction industry.
Definitely, yeah.
So hopefully that part of it works really well for you, so that way, all the farmers in your co-op have got somewhere to send their biomass to get turned into something. Yeah,
that's exactly right. It's exciting. We're dabbling in the paper side of things, hemp paper. So we work with a paper artisan, and this is part of what the co-op's about too, is finding people who have skills in specific areas already, and like a paper maker or someone who creates hemp stone or hemp plastic is what people know it as, utilising their skills and linking them in with the co-op so that they have the knowledge already, and we then are, working with them to build that or to have those products in our shop. So we've got a little bit of hemp paper in the shop and a bit of the hemp stone as well. So it's pretty exciting. It's about bringing people together, bringing community together and supporting each other to move the industry in the right direction.
Yeah. So at the moment, I think the last time I checked, we've only got 2,500-3,000 hectares of hemp in the whole country at the moment. So 500 licenses and a couple of thousand hectares of ground covered by hemp. That's obviously it's still in the realm of hobby farming, isn't it? And I know there's a couple of pretty big growers in New South Wales and Queensland, like they're getting some pretty broad acres things happening. There's still, when you get the total figure for the country, you can see
it's not huge.
You can see the brakes are on, can't you? I read something about New Zealand's having a review. The New Zealand government's doing a review of their policies and legislation around hemp. To try and relax it.
That's great. Another country moving ahead.
Well, you'd hope having a nice close neighbour like that, because it's the same thing. Like the hemp industry had that burst of interest, and then they've just hit the wall of policy, and they just can't move forward. Yeah. So they're talking about taking some of those restrictions. So of restrictions, from a government in New South Wales, Department of Primary Industries sort of thing, what sort of restrictions do you actually have to be a hemp farmer?
So when you apply for your licence, whoever is applying for the licence, and I think also every other person who lives on that property needs to have a clear criminal history, which is fair enough. You have to have a person from the DPI come out and inspect your property. One of the requirements is that your crop cannot be visible from a main road at all. So you may be driving past hemp in New South Wales and you might not see it because, as far as I know, it may have just changed around that. I know they're becoming a little more lenient with that. You have to have, the DPI has to come out and do spot check testing on your plants before harvest, and then they send that test away to a university. Ours is Southern Cross Uni, and the sampling gets done, and the farmer has to pay SCU to release our result. And once the result is released, if it's below the 1% THC, which is the cap for hemp, so if it's above that, then you have to take the crop out.
Yep.
Yeah, so you have a yearly fee that you have to pay to maintain your hemp license. If you're putting in several cultivars, like different cultivars or varieties of hemp, you have to then pay for your testing for each one of those. Southern Cross Uni charges around about $600 per test for each cultivar that you want to harvest. We can't harvest until we get our result back from Southern Cross Uni.
So even if you're ready to go, you can't go.
Yeah, so that happened to us last year. We were ready to go. So you have to give them 2 weeks notice of that you want them to come and do the sampling. And I gave 2 weeks notice. They didn't come. There was a communication error. Someone was away, all of those kinds of things. And I ended up just calling and saying, we're going to lose our entire crop for the season because of rain. Like, rain is great at the start of your season, but you don't want rain at harvesting and drying time. And our flower, like our product, was ready to go. We were ready to harvest. And so they ended up having to call someone from Grafton to come all the way here, which is, it's a few hours drive to come and do our sampling. So, yeah, there's definitely some issues there. And then because we're a co-op, one of our other problems that we have is if I harvest dry and then I need to transport my dried product to our processing farm where they do the slow cold infusions for our product for Northern Rivers Hemp, I have to apply for a permit to be allowed to take it in my own car to this other farm, even though it's in a drum. It's not a big plant I'm taking. It's in a drum. It looks like just dried tea leaves, really. And so we have to apply to move it from one farm to the other.
Okay.
If I buy seed from one of our other farms, or if they donate me seed, because we're in a co-op, obviously we work together, they have to weigh and log that in their register and then log it as that it's going out and list which farm it's going to. And then I have to, in my register for my farm, list it as an incoming hemp seed. Yeah, it's can be pretty monotonous.
Yeah, I mean, and some of those things, I suppose, under the current classification, you can understand why. Yeah, so you can understand why some of those regulations are in place in terms of, okay, well, we do have this prohibited plant that we're allowing you to make other stuff out of. And I suppose even in a regulated legal framework, it's sort of the same. Like, we're going to have to be able to say, well, that crop's recreational cannabis or medical cannabis, and this crop over here is hemp, and we need to be able to differentiate. So I can't see a lot of those measuring and all that sort of stuff going away.
No.
The thing about the crop near the main road, or is it just main roads or any normal street road, like in terms of where you can see it from?
Well, I think it's just, any normal street road. So like our crop here on our farm is sort of internal. You can't see it from any road.
Yep.
Or even any neighbouring house, actually. So
yeah, because you can see it, you can imagine from a regular farming point of view, there is so much really, really good land. Even if you think in the Northern Rivers, between your place and Lismore, and there's just so much beautiful farming land there that's near rivers and water sources, and that would be perfect, just perfect for growing hemp. And the fact that you can't, so that normalising hemp as a crop is certainly something we need to get to, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's I think it's just all part of educating people continuously. This is what we try to do that through Northern Rivers Hemp, through our socials and things, and just trying to break down those barriers and show pictures of our children out in the hemp field with us, harvesting and riding their bicycles and helping with
farmers.
Moving plants. Yeah, it's just, and nobody's getting hurt. We're all just people getting along with our lives and farming. That's what it is. It's just farming. So it's really time to break down the the barriers and just get moving ahead on this industry. I've got some stats here that I actually wrote down, so excuse me for reading
No,
it. But
please. Research is good.
yeah, the predicted value within Australia in 2026 of the hemp industry is 10 million. It's not huge, like you were saying. We haven't got huge amounts of licenses and stuff, but globally by 2030, the predicted hemp industry, industrial hemp industry, is expected to be $23.20 billion by 2030.
Yeah, it's not far away.
Yeah, like billions. So it's monstrous.
And we should be part of that.
Oh, we're crazy not to be. Australia is prime. We're prime country. We've got beautiful soil, we've got loads of land, we've got beautiful rainfall. You know, the potential is here for our country to have a new, like not a new industry, but to really boom this industry.
Well, there would be a new industry, wouldn't it? Like in reality, it would be a new industry because at the moment it's still in that special interest hobby. We're trying to make this work category. And I just looking at that New Zealand review that they're doing. The New Zealand Hemp Industry Association have said that the hemp industry there has a $2 billion potential with 20,000 jobs. And that's in New Zealand. They haven't even got the population of Sydney over there. And they're talking about creating 20,000 new jobs in a $2 billion industry. It just seems absurd when you think about Australia with, you know, a big chunk of the West Coast and the whole Eastern Coast perfect for growing the cannabis plant. That really could be a boom.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, there are definitely steps being made. There are steps being made. I'm not sure if it's not rapid enough for my liking, to be honest. But there are steps being made. So in 2023, there was a selection of people from New South Wales that were put together to form the New South Wales Hemp Task Force, as you know. And so that we worked together for a year on Zoom doing monthly meetings, and we had certain topics. And so that was brought together by the Legalised Cannabis Party, by Jeremy Buckingham, who sort of was the spearhead in driving that. And then he linked in Minister Tara Moriarty, who was the Minister for Agriculture. And so we were working with the Department of Primary Industries, and then at the end of last year put forward basically a plan or suggestions of some of the things that we'd like to see changed in the hemp industry. You know, so there is definitely work being done.
Oh, good. And it's good to see we're moving forward, even if it is incrementally. So
yeah,
I told you this would only be half an hour, so I won't take any more of your busy day. And thank you so much for giving us some time and giving us an insight into what's happening in the hemp industry in New South Wales and particularly in your area. And I can't wait to catch up to you again soon, maybe at Mardi Gras.
Absolutely. We'll be there.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for your time and have a great afternoon.
You too. And there's our chat with Crystal White from the Northern Rivers Hemp. I can thoroughly recommend that you give their shop a visit the next time you're passing through Nimbin. It's on the main street of the town there. Great range of products and very friendly, helpful staff. And you can look for them online too. They have quite a range of hemp-derived products available on their online store. So if you'd like to help support the hemp industry and a small co-op on the Northern Rivers, I can thoroughly recommend that you pop into Northern Rivers Hemp. So next time we might talk a little bit more about hemp. We'll see how that goes. I'll catch up with you soon. This is A Weed to Know. And once again, thanks for joining us on A Weed to Know. Presented by Andrew Fenwick, that's me. Music by Daniel Arvidsson, a famous Newcastle musician. And if you liked what you hear, please share and subscribe. And if you do like it, share it around. If you have any comments, put them in the comments box. If you have any questions or any information that you'd like to share, please get in touch. And once again, thanks for joining us.